Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to show you how to prepare dried beans so that they are canned on your pantry shelf and ready to use whenever you need them. Now I will tell you, a 15-ounce can of beans at my grocery store is anywhere from $79 to $1.09 a can. You can buy a 2-pound bag of beans for roughly $1.50, and they come in different sizes, different varieties. The key is the pre-soaking and the cooking in advance. Now, it took me years. Now, let me tell you, I've been cooking for a while and I've been doing a lot of canned items, and we are cutting our grocery bill in half by the week by making small changes. Right now, I have a batch of homemade bread going, and the recipe I'm using bakes 2 loaves of bread at a time. So we have been eliminating any kind of hamburger buns, hot dog buns, and bread for sandwiches and breakfasts by making homemade bread at home. It is a 2-loaf recipe, so if I need buns in the next couple of days, the batch usually lasts us 2 to 3 days. When it's time to loaf the bread, I'll either form it into either hot dog buns or hamburger buns. Little guy's hanging out with me, having some chips behind me. That little cough with a little chip getting stuck. Gotta keep an eye on those little ones. So by eliminating buying a case of beans, it usually lasts us about a month, month and a half, because I add black beans to our taco enchiladas, taco salads, even some different casseroles and stuff. So it's nice to have them on hand ready to go. Now, your regular size mason jar is a 16-ounce jar, which is perfect. Now, you can do them in smaller batches with a 4-ounce jar, the half pints. That works really good. If you have a large family or you're doing a lot of stuff with beans, go ahead and can them in a quart. It's really easy, really simple to do. It's just one of those processes that's a little slow, and it's worth the time and effort to do it. We were also finding that they were adding salt and unnecessary sodiums and preservatives into the canned goods. So by eliminating canned beans, we are also reducing any preservatives going into our bodies and trying to keep things as natural as possible for ourselves. We do a lot of organic and homegrown things here at our place.
So storage of beans is important to make sure that you don't get pests in them. So I like to store them in the pantry in mason jars instead of their original plastic bags. Way too easy for mice to get into. We don't have an old farmhouse, so we're very fortunate that way. But those critters find a way in one way or another. So they say to rinse and sort your beans. You're wanting to take out these broken splits, any crushed beans, and usually those will float to the top while cooking anyway. But we're just going to do a quick rinse with these. I prefer to use warmish water, not hot, not cold. I hate having my hands cold from having it in water all day long and having that dry out my skin. Give them a little stir. Look for any bad ones. Might be dark brown. Just little splits. It's okay if these get in there. These are just going to be nuisance beans that are going to float later on. So I'm showing you with my black-eyed peas. I'm going to be cooking and showing you the black beans that I use for a lot of our dishes. This is something I use in a lot of salads in the house. I have a really great recipe for Texas caviar I can share with you if you're interested, and that uses these. Now, the black-eyed peas are a little more expensive at the store, so it's really good to do your bean prep at home. And as you know, I'm in Michigan, I'm not in California. If you are worried about conserving water, fill your sink with water, put your beans in a colander, and swish them around. You can even put a bowl underneath this and reuse any of the water that you are running over your beans to water your plants. So I think that's good. Now, part of what that's doing is you're getting any dust or any starches off of your beans, just like when you're washing your rice. Now here we've got 6 to 8 cups of water. I don't measure it out, but you want to make sure that the beans are covered plenty deep because they are going to swell and expand. Now, if you're in a hurry, you can do what's called a quick soak. And in a quick soak, you'll add hot water, bring it to a boil for about 2 minutes, and then take it off the heat and let them set for an hour before actually cooking them. When you do this method, of course, you still drain your soaking water and rinse your beans, and then proceed with cooking them. So I've got some errands to run today. These are gonna set on the pot, setting in water for 6 to 8 hours. It's perfect because then at the end of the day, I can put these in a crock pot overnight or cook them on the stovetop for a while. These beans take 1.5 to 2 hours to cook, so the crock pot can be a little bit too long of a cooking time. If you are gonna do it in a crock pot, it's gonna be like your 4-hour setting. Generally, whatever it is for your stovetop, it's gonna be double the time in a crock pot. So I'm just gonna leave these sitting on the back of the stovetop or on the counter for the day, and we'll come back to the cooking.
So after you've let your beans soak, the first thing you wanna do is rinse them in a colander and run water over them. Keep rinsing until any liquid coming out of the bottom is clear. When you drain these, they have kind of a brownish purple liquid coming off of them. Keep doing that until it's clear. If you have ever bought canned beans, you'll notice that in the bottom of a can, and that's why they always tell you to rinse that. You're removing some starch from that. You don't want to cook that up and bottle it. So I cook these with no salt. I don't need any added sodium in my diet, no preservatives, just cooking the beans. And the simplest way I can tell you how to do this is do it in a large batch. I believe I am cooking up, I had them in jars in the pantry just to make sure that they are pest proof. I highly advise that whenever you're storing dried beans, unless you have so much that you can store them in a larger container, like a 5-gallon bucket. Glass is always going to be your best bet. If you have a damp basement or anything like that, you can add the little packets that absorb moisture to a can of, say, rice or beans, and then you're not going to have any losses in your pantry. So I think that that is pretty adequately drained. I'm not seeing any colors come off the bottom. Now over here, I've got my large canning pot, and this is, shush. Over here, I've got my large canning pot, and this is a 22-quart stainless steel insulated bottom or double bottom kettle. If you don't use a heavy bottomed kettle, you can burn your beans. Now you're gonna just cook your beans. Over here, these are beans that we're gonna have with our dinner tonight. We're having homemade enchiladas that are going to have black beans, rice, and cut up bits of beef steak in them. You can do it with chicken, you can do it with ground beef, anything you like. But just notice here how I have this cocked to the side to let that steam out. These are just simmering on low. I've actually got this on about 2.5 to 3 on my stovetop right now. And we're gonna do the same thing with this. So I've got my beans added. You wanna make sure you add plenty of water so that they aren't going to stick to the bottom. You have to allow for evaporation and a 1.5 to 2 hour cooking time. And that is generally recommended for anywhere from 1 pound to 2 pounds of beans. So test for doneness, and you can can these, top off the top of the jars with beans, do your processing time, put them through the water bath canner, and you are all set, and then your pantry will be full. So if you're new to the kitchen, with canning, the thing I will tell you most is clean as you go, because otherwise that sink's gonna get filled really fast, and you're gonna need it, and it's gonna be filled full of stuff. So while I was doing other things in the kitchen and waiting for these beans to cook, I went ahead and I emptied out my sink, ran the dishwasher, and now I've got my canning jars set up behind me so they're all ready to fill. Now you want hot, clean, sterilized jars. So I heat them up as I go in the water bath canner. You definitely need access to your entire stovetop during this time. So plan on doing a crock pot dinner or something that can go in the oven. tonight for us, it's those quesadillas, and it is going to be a huge time saver because I can have them already all made and put together, so they just go straight from the refrigerator to in the oven for a short baking time, or straight from the pan to the oven. So I'm going to have that all prepped and ready to go, so I can just slip it in.
As usual, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope these little tips help you. I didn't know the first thing about cooking beans even a couple of years ago. I kept having undercooked beans in all of my recipes because I was understanding that the cooking for 1.5 to 2 hours on the stovetop, the pre-soaking was enough, and they were rock hard. That's not good to have uncooked beans swelling up in your stomach, causing you gas and discomfort. So follow these tips. I hope it all helps you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.